It says we're live.
Hey, everybody. Yep, it is Wednesday. Grab your goat, grab a drink, grab some popcorn, because it is time for the Witches Movie Coven. Yes, indeed. The Witches Movie Coven, where witches, 5 of us, talk about witches in movies. And tonight we are going to talk about the 2020 film, The Coven. No, The Craft. I'm multitasking. The Craft Legacy, the second one in the series. But let's check in. My name is Patti Negri. I am one of your hosts. You might know me from Ghost Adventures. You might know me from now the Ghost Finders. You might know me from my beautiful The Witching Hour podcast. But let me introduce you to my beautiful co-host. Let's start with Heather. Heather Greene, a writer, a journalist, and the author of the ultimate book on witches in movies.
Yep, that's me. That's quoting Courtney. That's me. That I am Heather Greene, and I am a editor at Llewellyn. I am a freelance journalist as well, covering occult, and of course, I did write the book Lights, Camera, Witchcraft, which covers the history of witches and witchcraft in Hollywood movies since the dawn of its time.
And it's fabulous, and it's very, very big, and it looks good on the coffee table. Next, I'm going to go in a circular sync, just like they do in the movie. Richard-Lael Lillard.
Yes, hello. I am, of course, Richard-Lael. Richard-Lael is one name, not two. If I were just Richard, I'd be... Never mind. I am known as the Gentleman Psychic, and I'm here in New Orleans. So, yeah, that's that.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm playing here. I'm going to set my phone down because it's not working. Okay, Courtney Buckley. Hi,
That's me. Hi, I'm Courtney Buckley. I am Ghost Bait on Scared and Alone. I am all things Salem. I rushed in tonight just from Salem. October is coming. It's crazy. But yeah, that's...
And boy, is your broom tired.
Exhausted. Boom. Yeah, I need a new one.
Wow. Is it busy already? We're not even...
Yeah, so every year October has been starting earlier and earlier, and I'm pretty sure it started maybe beginning of August this year. It's been pretty crazy.
Wow. All right, and next, Richard-Lael Lillard.
I'm going to toss it over to Jason Mankey.
Oh, Jason Mankey, because we're going to go back to the other thing. Jason Mankey.
I'm Jason. I am a prolific witchcraft writer, written 9 books. This is one of those 9 books, The Horned God of the Witches, with art by Laura Tempest Sakharov. So I practice witchcraft, and it's almost the autumn equinox, so it means Friday I'll be doing a big ritual with my coven, which is very exciting for us.
It is.
Yeah. For other coven, we're so jealous.
And it's true. It's true. I'm very loved. I'm very blessed to be in many covens. And I'm also really jealous of Courtney, because I wish October started in August here.
Well, it's always October in my heart in the fun way, but not in the I can't people for any longer way. So.
Okay. Well, I apologize for my opening. I was trying to do 2 things at once and my little brain won't. But Heather, since you did write the book on all this, do we have anything in our book about the Craft Legacy?
We do, actually. This was one of the last movies that appears in my book, because I stopped and I had to hand it in to the editors in 2020. So this is one of the last movies I talk about. And there's a lot of things to say about this. This is one of those movies where the movie might not have won awards, and it might not be spectacular from a cinematic art position, but there's a lot of things to talk about. There's a lot of things to talk about it as a movie in general, and it as a movie of its time, as well as what they were trying to accomplish, as well as a movie about witchcraft. And so, it may not have the cachet or the lasting power that the original has, but there's a lot of things in it that are very interesting, and they made a lot of great changes in this movie and tweaks in this movie, even in production, that reflect the changes in the witchcraft community. So that in and of itself is very interesting. And so I'll highlight a few of those. Before I do that, though, I'm going to say that this movie occurs at the end of the third witchcraft period. And what I mean is, if you read my book, you'll know that there are three witchcraft eras, meaning the popularity of witch films. So we had one in the 70s, one starting in the 80s into the 90s, and then this one starting in the early 2010s, ending a couple years ago. I'm believing it ended, just on my estimation and observation. So this one occurs towards the end. And what's interesting about this, and just from my nerdy standpoint of a historian of film, is that each one of these film periods starts with a variety of films, mostly horror, mostly geared at either adults or older teens and adults, and then turns into movies about teens. If you think of it in the 70s, you go from 70s shock horror, witch films, witchploitation to Carrie, for example. In the 80s and 90s, you go from Witches of Eastwick, shock horror, Halloween, The Witchcraft and Pumpkinhead, to movies like The Craft, to Sabrina, to other movies that have focused on teens, aimed at teens. This period is very much the same. If you think about the witch movies from the early 2010s, you have a lot of horror, you have a lot of the dark fantasy, sort of generally located, and then you head into teen movies. This is one of several of them that happen. And a lot of these, and I talk about my book at this period of time, are replications of movies that occurred in the 90s. You have a redo of The Witches. You have this, The Craft Legacy. You have Charmed reappears again. So you're seeing a lot of that happen. These are movies that are appealing to, you would think would appeal to both the kids of the 90s, the Gen Xers, millennials, and then to their children 20 years later. Okay, so it's a very interesting kind of dynamic happening here with witch films. Probably one of the first times we start to see that, because it's one of the first times we have that legacy of witch films, successful witch films. So anyway, just to reiterate, this film had, which is very important, 3 witches consulting, and I got to, and I sent the link over to, and I will share the link possibly in one of our feeds. I wrote an article on this and got to talk to some of those wonderful folks who were on the set of this movie. And then it started with Pam Grossman, who runs the podcast. Remind me the name, someone.
Waking the Witch.
That's her book. Waking the Witch is her book, and her podcast.
Witch Wave.
Yes, Witch Wave. Thank you. And Pam Grossman's wonderful. She's done a lot of work in this area, and she was the first witch pulled in to consult. Second witch, she sent Brie Luna. She sent them to Brie Luna because Brie Luna is a woman of color and a witch of color, and they wanted that perspective. Brie Luna then did get to do some consultation and some advisement. And then on the set, because it was filmed in Canada, you had Erin Fogel, and she was actually on the set doing rituals and stuff. And I'll talk a little bit about what they said and what I learned from them as we talk. But this has that is an indication of how significant this film is in terms of the representation of modern witches and witchcraft, and the choice by a Hollywood film to actually do some real good homework. So we can talk about that.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. That is fascinating. I didn't know that, but I'm watching it. I was going, got that. So now we go next to Richard-Lael. Would you like to give us the synopsis of the film?
I would be delighted. So the synopsis of the film, it is, as Ms. Heather Greene said, it is 20 years later after The Craft. And it is a young girl who doesn't know she's a witch. Her mother is dating David Duchovny. We'll get to him in a moment. And dating David Duchovny, and she has to move in. And he has 3 sons. And it's sort of this mixed family. And she has to change schools. And you know that David Duchovny is, in fact, the villain. Spoiler, because the very first thing he says is, "A little birdie told me. Isn't that right, little birdie? You're my lovely little birdie." And you know he's the bad guy. You just know, because that's creepy and gross. And then Then this girl goes to school, and like Carrie before her, she has her lady flow, and she is too deaf to know that she has now soiled her trousers, even though when one soils one's trousers, you can feel it because it's uncomfortable. But clearly she was too busy to notice that she had bled through and onto the floor. And all of these teenage boys decide then, instead of being incensed and grossed out like most men would be, they decide to poke fun of her and tell her that she dropped something. So she is mortified. She goes to the bathroom. These three girls who happen to just come out and say, by the way, we are witches. They go to her and they offer her the sweaty gym shorts. And then the next thing you know, there's a little bit of fighting, and there's a douchey guy who's had an affair, a love affair. He's bisexual. He's had an affair with the half brother. And then Scooby-Doo and the gang get in their mystery machine, and you're wondering what the heck's going on, because that's where I stopped. And then I had to go back and actually read the reviews to know what actually happens. So this is what I learned. So the one thing I did see is that the witches stopped time, and they stopped time for like 10 hours. I'm serious. I watched it for like 10 hours and it was only 35. Anyway, so the witches, they come together, and they're excited that there is some sort of mind control or whatever. And then let's see, David Duchovny is revealed that he's a warlock, and he is, of course, misogynistic, even though he's not. The only misogynistic thing that comes in the entire film is delivered from the girl at the party, who says, "Oh, you're trying so hard to be pretty." And of course, then the witches make her bump her head, because that's what witches do. And then David Duchovny, they go out into the woods. They all fight. They're like binding themselves because someone is killed, and they don't want to cause any more trouble. And then they go into the woods, and they end up by killing David Duchovny, who nobody knows where he is. He's apparently the celebrity with 3 sons, but nobody gives a care because he's just a douche, okay? And then roll credits. You shouldn't marry a wizard, a warlock. The end. Roll credits. That's it. Yes. And I have a list of things that I'll save that. I have a list of things I would rather watch than this movie.
That was the most unbiased recounting of any movie I've ever heard in my life. Fully unbiased. I liked it a lot.
Unbiased.
I loved that retelling.
I'm disappointed you missed the My Little Pony segment at the end of the movie. You probably don't know the friendship, the magic is friendship thing.
Friendship is magic.
Friendship is magic, and magic is friendship thing at the end, with them all coming together and bringing together and saving the whole. I'm sorry. I watched many My Little Pony, and I could not. That was definitely a My Little Pony moment at the end. Sorry.
I will tell you exactly the 10 things I would rather watch.
Please do.
Than Kraft mac and cheese. That's what I'm calling it. Okay, this is my list of things I would normally save my critique, but I can't. Things I would rather watch than tonight's film. Number 10, The Muppets Wizard of Oz.
Oh, that's rough.
Number 9, The Witch from the Sea. Number 8, paint drying. Number 7, boy band witches.
Oh
No. Hold on.
Yeah, hold on.
Number 6, peeling linoleum. Number 5, Barney and Friends. Number 4, Fox and Friends. Number 3, Wicker Man with Nicolas Cage.
That movie does not exist.
Number 2, The Sword in the Stone. Number 1, Gene Wilder in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate.
Okay. Now
okay.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
I feel like I'm going to bow out of the show now. I don't know if I can be seen.
I'm backing away. Hold on. I gotta get my spray out.
Yeah.
I wasn't here last week, so I missed the whole Charlie and the Chocolate Factory debate. Can someone fill me in on that?
Yes, I'll tell you. I hate Gene Wilder's version of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I hated every second of it. And I liked better the Johnny Depp version, even though I couldn't stand his George W. Bush voice.
Which was done on purpose.
Which was done on
Which
purpose.
we've since learned.
I agree. Is that controversial?
What?
And I'm taking
What?
Jason. We got see together, Jason.
I'm done. I'm done. I'm just done. You know, we did a year. We got through a year of the show, and now our differences, I think, are just too stark. I don't know.
All right, Jason. While we are there, why don't you talk about the? Well, you have laid across the mark. Okay. No,
I like this movie. It is not a perfect movie, and I have many critiques of this movie, but I also have many critiques of the original. What I like about this movie is that it shows witchcraft for what it is. It's empowering, and it empowers these young women to stand up to bullies and to be the best versions of themselves. Also, there's lessons learned from the original craft where you want the four girls to get along and to be best friends, and in this movie they are. And yes, friendship is magic, and it sounds like My Little Pony, but I love that about it. This movie in some ways reminds me of Hocus Pocus 2, which also sort of retcons the witches from the original Hocus Pocus, makes them sympathetic because the crowd likes them, and that's what we get in this movie. We are meeting expectations by having all of these girls be friends and get along, and that their antagonist is not one of their own. The antagonist is somebody who is truly terrible and evil in David Duchovny, and there are things that are wrong with this movie, and boy, my sort of summary of it at the end really hits on a lot of those things. But as a representation of where a lot of witchcraft is in the year 2020, I think it's very, very good for that.
Thank you. I will go next. I agree with that. I really liked it. Some of the stuff that I liked is it took me back to high school because I started at that age too with my craft work. And that in the beginning, when everything is great and those girls that I could do anything, I could be anything, and look at what we could do, that whole empowering thing. It literally took me there, right there. Like, yes, I want to be these cute four little high school girls. And I really, really enjoyed that. So that made it that much harder when things went bad. I got invested in these girls, and then when they broke up, it hurt. It's like, no, don't leave her go. She wasn't that bad. She didn't do it. It was the boy. I in these kind of horror films, I don't usually get that involved in it, and I did. The only part that was really hard for me is that David Duchovny being a bad guy. I love David Duchovny. Since X-Files, since California, I got a thing. I got David Duchovny, and him being so evil and hard and whole was really, really hard for me. But I love the girls. I love the craft. I was like, oh, that's good. That's good. I mean, of course, it turns into like, I haven't been able to stop a bird personally or stop time on my own, but we're working towards that. I just need me some nice high school girls to work with. But I do know because I do a lot of seances. And I work with a lot of teenage girls. I work with with Awesomeness Television, and my YouTubers are literally that age. I don't know how old the girls really were, but the age they were supposed to be. And you do have high life force. I mean, that's when the poltergeisty stuff, that's when the really magic-y stuff. So I felt it all. Again, not to the point of stopping time and stopping people, but I like the relationships that they created. I like the empowerment they created. It's just, they should have. David Duchovny can't be that evil. He can't. That's it.
All right, so I'll hop in. Full disclosure, I watched the whole thing in a way, but I pulled a Richard-Lael, and while I was driving to Salem tonight, I was listening to it, and then when I got there, I stopped and watched the second half of it. So I did miss out on some of the visuals in the beginning, but I'm a big fan of Blumhouse. Or however you say it, Blumhouse, whatever it is. But Blumhouse. I'm a big fan of Blumhouse. I love pretty much everything that they put out. I didn't hate this movie. I feel like I should be wearing my Heather t-shirt that says I didn't mind it. I had a lot of problems with the first one too. I know it's a classic, and I do love it because it's nostalgic, the first one. But just like Jason said, I feel like I didn't like the Mean Girls aspect of the first one, like where they were at each other. Like I didn't like that part. I wanted them all to be best friends, and in this movie they were, and that felt good and empowering. And then just like Patty, like David Duchovny to me was not a good villain. Like I love David Duchovny, he did not make a good villain. He was not scary enough to be the character to me, the character that he was. He gave me like creepy, weird, funny uncle vibes and not like scary in the woods warlock vibes. And so that kind of took me out of it a little bit. But I do like that they had a common enemy outside of their group. I thought that was great. And they still had turmoil between each other, but it felt like it was for a good reason. Like it wasn't for stupid petty stuff. It was because they were trying to be better. So they, there was that turmoil, and I like that part. So overall, like I didn't mind it, but I feel like David Duchovny was not the choice. I love David Duchovny. He was not the choice.
Thank you. All right. Who wants to go next?
I'll pop in here and talk a little bit in response to you guys and what I learned from the folks that actually were on the set, and also from reading a lot of other interviews with the director, Zoe Lister-Jones. So her a lot of what you guys are picking up on, it was her point. Her point was to take the problems that she had with the first film, one of which was the anti-feminist perspective of the girls infighting with each other. And then, of course, having this male god, Manon in the first one, and then the turning of Nancy at the end and stuff. And some of the problems that I had with it, she was trying to rectify. She was trying to make it a feminist film. This was a feminist, distinctly, purposefully a feminist script, which meets the time, because we're talking about, we're coming out of the Me Too era, or not coming out of it. We're arriving from the Me Too period of time where we had that a few years ago. We're seeing more engagement and attempts to represent diversity. We're seeing that in this movie, which was not in the first movie. That movie was reflective of 1996. This movie is reflective of 2020. So you see the diversity, you see the distinctly very strong feminist perspective. The idea of representing witchcraft accurately in a way. Yes, there's some stuff, we don't stop time, etc., but there's some stuff that is still movie magic. But having three, not one, like most films, having three consultants on the set was purposeful, and she wanted it that way. The woman that was on the set was actually on the set, not doing the script work. Erin Fogel, she actually did rituals to open the set production and close the set production every day. She would be there when they would do their magic work to make sure that they didn't actually do something, because as she says, magic doesn't, energy doesn't know, the universe doesn't know whether it's real magic or whether it's magic for a script. It's all done, and you could do something that could be problematic. She was there for that. She also would work with them and she also would work with the actors privately to make sure they got the feeling of doing ritual. They got the feeling of what energy work was and magic work was. So she was really actively working. And I think that's obvious. And I think that's a lot of what we're picking up on too. So this movie isn't perfect in my mind either. Just like you guys said, neither was the original Craft, but it meets its time. It really does. And that is what I love to see. I love to see it meeting its time. I love to see it doing the witchcraft stuff, the representation, the feminist aspect of it. Yeah, David Duchovny, that was disappointing. I was an X-Files fan too, so I'm with you guys on that. I was like, oh, okay, well, whatever, we'll get over that. But I love to see a movie, even if it's imperfect, even if it's not going to win Academy Awards.
It's not. It won't.
No, it's not. But I love to see it hitting its point. It's hitting its moment. And it's not going to have the legacy of the original Craft, because the Craft broke social and cultural barriers at the time. It was something, it had a much more stronger emphasis. It was doing something more drastic. This one was not, but it is important in respect of witch films. And what I think we also have to bring up is that this one, in that respect, had a transgender woman playing a transgender woman. And so, and what Zoe Luna, the actress, said was, it was great that I was there and that they didn't make a big deal out of it. So it wasn't a plot point. She was just there, and she loved that. And she talks about that in a couple interviews as well. It's another meeting the moment this film did. So hats off to Zoe Lister-Jones for doing this work with the film. Whether you like it or not, you know, it did do what she wanted it to do. It did accomplish her goal.
There's some beautiful.
That's my lecture.
There are some beautiful moments in this film, though. The ritual they do in the woods with the circle made out of stones, that is absolutely gorgeous. It's what you want witchcraft to look like. It's the kind of ritual you want to be in. And then they're doing a chant that most of us know, because don't they do the earth, the air, the fire, the water, return, 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 return? I think the order's a little different than how I know it. But they say those 4 elements with the return, return, return. It really felt like they were practicing something that I also practice and know. I just can't stop time yet. Though when the 5 of us get together,
boom, we'll
try.
Let's try it. Friendship is magic.
What if we did that when we get together live? Sometime we could do reenactments of either some of our favorite or our least favorite movies along the way. Costuming.
I was just gonna say we're gonna need a costume team.
I got that.
And you know, the other thing I wanted to bring out is the original Crafts did have a consultant. Is not the first one to have a witch consultant on it, and that's what my article is about. And I will put the link somewhere where I can get the link for you guys to read. But it was one of the first big ones and one of the most well known, and that was a Wiccan priestess, Pat Devin. She was absolutely 100% a Wiccan priestess. Long, you know, from the 60s, 70s, etc. She was old school. This was not the case. Here you had 3 witches who were from different practices, different backgrounds. I don't know if any of them are Wiccan, actually. So you have a variety of different witchcraft consultants involved in this. So it's really nice to have that. I like you said, Jason, that's why it was obvious, because they were working with it very actively. Pat Devin was only on script, working on the script. She wasn't on the set. So makes a difference. It really does.
I think it definitely paid off. That's one of the things that I really did like about it, is seeing all the magic, even if it was like with the
terrible
aura
CGI.
Yes, even then.
1989.
But I liked it. I liked it because it felt normal. Like most of it. Like it felt familiar, in the same sense that like practical magic, the magic in practical magic, where it's just that like very easy at home, you know, with the things that you have in your cupboard kind of magic. Like that's what it felt like to me. That spoke to me. So I think that they did do a really good job. And I will say that like watching the movie, one of the things that I did appreciate about it is that it was not a sequel. It didn't feel like a sequel to me while I was watching it. It was more like a whole new story. But then at the very end, they have that little right. But
That's
they have
where
that little
I was getting ready to go. You're right.
But I came to terms with it because I wasn't sure what it was going to be, because I hadn't seen it yet until today, but I wasn't sure what it was going to be. I was glad that it wasn't like a direct sequel all those years later, because that would have been probably bad. But you know, but they had that little callback at the end in such a way that I literally gasped out loud. Like I was kind of like Richard, though. I was like, okay, is this like, okay, great, like la la, like now friendship ponies and whatever, and then boom, it happened. I went, oh, so good.
They waited until the very end of the movie, and she didn't say a word.
She didn't have to.
She
didn't have to.
There's a callback before that, though. If you're really watching the film and you like the film, when David Duchovny name checks Manon, which is the made-up god in the movie, who drives Nancy crazy, and then all of a sudden, when they did that, that's when I went crazy, because I was like, oh yeah, this is linked to the original, because they're using that name Manon, and then all of a sudden now you have a justification for Nancy turning bad. It's all Manon who is corrupting young women, and so congratulations to Zoe Lister-Jones. Yes, the the CGI is absolutely terrible, but there's all these good things that could have been even better in this movie.
But you know what I didn't like, though, honestly, what was a major turnoff? Okay, yes, it's no secret that I detest modern music, and it was throughout, and I almost couldn't breathe because I was like, how do I hear the words without this craptastic music? Anyway, one of the things that I didn't like was that everything in the show is through the eyes of the young girl that's supposed to be the star. And why are the others friends? They're just friends. You don't know. There's no other reasons. And then they say, oh, well, you can sit with us. Not that anyone else would anyway. But then you don't show any reason why anyone else would not sit with them at all. And it's like they're just sort of, oh, hi, I'm a paper doll and I'm supposed to do there. There's no clear defined method. There's no reason. I cared nothing about any of them. And I wanted them all to die. I didn't want David Duchovny to die. I wanted them to die.
Didn't you go to high school? There is no reason by the ones who were shunned versus the ones, except for the cheerleader.
I mean, I have a quote for this. I have a quote for this.
Who was shunned? I was the one who was shunned.
I know, but did they have a reason for it? Did they have a reason?
They didn't show a reason in the film.
There is no reason for the girls to be shunned. It's just you fall into your energetic things. Go on, Courtney.
There's one reason for them to be shunned.
Well, it's because they're weirdos.
But then they just came out and said, oh, we're witches. And in the first one, I loved that they were all going to a Catholic school. So there was like this, they're all sort of these Christians. And then this group, they're practicing this pagan religion in a school surrounded by Catholics. This is just some normal school. And I hated high school, and I hated every second of this.
One of the big problems with
Mary Jane didn't like high school either.
I didn't like it either.
One of the problems with this movie is that 3 of the characters are not developed at all. They're so poorly developed that they don't even have last names. And in the original Craft, all 4 girls are very well developed, and there are reasons for their anger at their fellow students throughout the film. Whether you think they take it to an extreme is one thing or another, but you can see why they're angry. And in this film, you don't really get the backstories of the other 3 outside of Lily. At one point, I think when this movie came out, I wrote a review of it, and I said that Frankie's character is the girl who wears a coat all the time. Because that's basically her identifying signature, is that she wore a cheetah print coat the whole movie. And that's one of the things that really disappoints me about this film, is that part should have been so much better.
I feel like they as a unit were their own character. Like, that's how I saw it, which is not great. Not a win. But like, it was like Lily was her own character, and then the other 3 witches were another one character.
Right. And that's exactly together. And that hits the nail on the head of the change of the entire theme of the movie and how these 2 are so different. The others were negotiating. The original was negotiating personal relationship to power. Each witch was trying to figure out their own power. Witchcraft was the tool to get there. The unit of them was secondary. The unit of them working together was secondary or non-existent, really. It was only for the purposes, because you got those stories, those backstories. Not, in fact, some of those backstories were even dropped. They weren't even as developed as they filmed. Like, they dropped Rachel True's, more of Rachel. She was the least developed in the original film. They dropped some of hers, but that was what we, and some of the other characters, well, that was the point of the film, is each character's reason for finding witchcraft. Again, 1990s, we're discussing these girls trying to find their power after being oppressed or harmed in some way. That's what that film was about. This movie was about them as a unit. So they never really developed the characters. And I agree. That was one of the things. It's like, she shows up, Lily, she's struggling. We see her family life, and all of a sudden these 3 girls show up, and now within seconds of the film, they're this unit. And it's them being a unit. It's friendship is magic, which is the point of this film, to overcome the patriarchy. It's women overcoming the patriarchy. It's different, other than the Lily story. And that was a little bit of a balance problem.
But the only misogynistic thing in the entire 30 minutes that I watched, maybe 45, it came from It came from the one girl student, and it was at the party, and she says, "Oh, you're trying to be pretty and you fail." Like it's the only misogynistic thing could happen there. And then of course David Duchovny, he's supposed to be this misogynist, like hateful guy, and then they make the one brother gay, but really they should have made the other one the problem, and like that way then you could understand, well, my father is homophobic and he's a bigot and that's why he's here to help, and that's why it was just, the whole thing was just underdeveloped. And I tried so hard. I went back to watch it again. I watched like half of it, and then I thought, okay, they watched my friends, my coven, they watched Wizard of Oz, the Muppets edition. They watched it. I can do this. I can do this. The next song comes on, and I went, nope, I cannot. I cannot.
Sacrifice for your coven, Richard-Lael.
I would sacrifice a goat before.
Wow. Cheers.
Don't say that. Poor Black Phillip. What did he ever do?
It is terrible. Terrible. I think you're overthinking it, Richard-Lael. The characters and the this and the I didn't think. I just enjoyed it. Maybe that's it. Maybe I don't have enough of a brain. but the characters that you went to, and the lack of the characters, and it should have been this one and not that one. You weren't in the movie.
That was because it was so bad, I couldn't help but think of the things that were really bad. It's like being in the dentist without Novocaine, which, come to think of it, would have been more enjoyable than watching this movie.
Richard-Lael, I have something to tell you. This may come as a shock, but when I pulled up to my shop in Salem, I had the movie was plugged into my sound speaker, or my car stereo speakers, and I was listening to it. And as I pulled up, I had my window down, and one of the songs was playing, and my coworker came out and was like, "Oh, what's that cool song you're listening to?" And I was like, "Oh no, I'm watching the Craft." So I don't know. I think I liked it. I like the songs.
I would like to assure you, Richard-Lael, that this is David Duchovny was a misogynist. It wasn't. He was writing. That was his business, and it sounded first like it was a positive spiritual men's group,
right,
and then it turned into, yeah.
Well, there's a scene where they show you his book title, and it's very clear that he's like an alt-right sort of Jordan Peterson sort of character, right? And he's instantly loathed. I mean, he was creepy at first too, but I mean, it's just all the signs are there. But it's very poorly developed the whole way through.
But why were they snapping? What was all of that? It's like 1967 and some like
poetry.
It was like an AA meeting for like when you have closeted gay feelings and you're not allowed to. So congratulations for keeping it in.
I have met groups.
That's what I got from it. Honestly, that's what I got from it.
I've met groups that don't applaud; they just snap because it's quieter and it doesn't like
silent.
Yeah, it doesn't drown out the speaker.
And to me,
golf clap.
To me, it just told me that he's a cult leader. Like, okay, they have their own little thing that everybody does. He's a cult leader. The kids do it. You look at those kids' faces while they were doing all this stuff. It should have just been anybody else except for David Duchovny. But to me, that the snappy thing wasn't, why are they doing that? Oh, because they're a cult and they do their own thing.
Yeah.
I wish that cult would have been more well developed, though. I mean, it's just, I think David Duchovny's screen time is maybe 15 minutes throughout the whole film. He's really barely in there at all. And then all of a sudden it's just, oh yeah, I'm a warlock who's coming to steal your power. Boom. That's the end of the movie. And like that, it would have been much cooler to have this well-developed sort of secret society that he was running in opposition to the witches. The movie's only 90 minutes long. They could have done another half an hour to flesh things out, though. I would feel bad for Richard-Lael had this movie been an extra half an hour.
He wouldn't have watched it anyway. He only got through 30 minutes.
Well, that's a good point. I feel like the whole time, not that I was like visually looking at it with my eyes for the first half, but like I was paying attention to it, and I could not for the life of me figure out what his deal was. Like I literally thought when everyone was talking about like the son wasn't coming home from dinner or whatever because he had hooked up with the friend, and he was sitting there and he's like, what do you mean he's not coming home from dinner? Like, and, I was like, oh, God. And then they go right into like his, oh, how'd your groups go, or like whatever. And I was like, does he like, is it like a conversion camp? Like, is he like the leader of a conversion camp? Because like that's what I thought they were going towards. And then somehow I got from that to, okay, now he's apologizing. I don't really understand what's happening. And then boom, he's a demon with eyes that you can't tell. Like one goes black and the other one goes halfway black, but looks like it's supposed to go all the way black. And I don't know what's happening. So it was just like there was no clear, nothing was clear.
And Dead Poet Boy says his speech towards the end was overdone. And that's true. I didn't watch it, but I did watch the reviews. And that was one of the things that they mentioned was that in the end, like a James Bond villain, he decides that before he's done anything, before he's killed anybody, before he's harmed anyone, before he's taken any magic, he has to go through the entire plot as to, I'm going to kill you. And then we're going to destroy you. And then I'm going to take your magic and I'm going to rule the world. And I didn't watch it, so I don't know really what he said. I'm only surmising because I didn't watch it.
That was pretty close.
Yeah, you're about right.
Yep.
But I mean, they had so much plot to explain because they hadn't done a very good job of explaining it thus far. So they needed the exposition towards the end.
Yeah, the movie does. I agree, and the movie got lost in all of that. It was so concerned about doing these good things that we've talked about earlier. So concerned about its feminist message. So concerned about the group of girls. So concerned about all these things that it kind of lost its ability to tell its story, and that is where it failed. And that's why, it's not going to be. It's not as powerful as it could be. The messages and the good things that the director did are unfortunately lost just generally speaking, because the story, like the characters, you can't really attach yourself to them because the end is hokey. Well, the end of the original one craft was hokey too. That's where it lost me also, the original movie. But it's not perfect film. It's not a perfect.
The end of the original craft though feels like a climax. Right? Yeah. I mean, all these things come to a head. It's big. There's a lot of magic going on. And I didn't feel that in this film. Like it's just sort of a little speed bump and then the movie's done. Right? It doesn't have this big sort of explosion of everything at the end. Like it would have. Yeah.
And nobody went looking for him. I mean, he's supposed to be the celebrity men's mental health guru. And then he's got 3 boys and he's got a girlfriend who's the girl's mother. And nobody cares at the end. Oh, don't go dating warlocks.
Speaking...
Go ahead, Jason.
Go ahead, Heather. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and again, the movie was so focused on them as a unit that the ending was more about them coming together and working together. Friendship is magic, My Little Pony, than it was about the conflict. So the conflict was secondary. Again, losing that power you were talking about. That's all I was going to say. Go ahead. Are you doing our movie trailer?
I'm going to do the trailer because Richard-Lael has brought up everything that's in the trailer.
Okay.
So, all right, here we go. Deep voice. It's the sequel soft reboot that took 25 years to make, and yet still felt like an afternoon TV special. Prepare yourself for The Craft Legacy. Hang with an entirely new coven of witches. Lily, Lilith Schechner, and her friends Frankie, Tabby, and Lourdes, none of whom have last names. I guess that the last 3 are like Cher or Madonna, but without a backstory. Enjoy special effects that will have you wondering if they were created by a 5th grade computer programming class. Ponder just why director and writer Zoe Lister-Jones signed up David Duchovny for a role in her film, and then gave him an underdeveloped plotline and very little to do. Enjoy a climax that feels pulled from an episode of Charmed that will have you wondering, was that really the climax of the film? And did those girls just murder someone? I mean, really, I think they murdered someone. I think the police might be taking some witches in for questioning. Stop time in its tracks and cheer out loud when Nancy from the first movie shows up at the very end of the film for a quick 20-second cameo. We get 20 seconds of Nancy and 1 mention of Manon? That's it? Was this even a craft movie?
Oh wow! Snap! 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 Snap!
No,
snap.
we're not a cult. We're a coven, not a cult.
Can I just say my favorite part was like, and did not give him enough to do.
That
I
was
can't.
brilliant, Jason. That was brilliant, and
Thank you.
and so well put together. Is there going to be a third?
God, I hope not.
I'm
if,
gonna.
if there's a Satan in hell, I will say no. There is not.
I feel like I would watch another one,
I would.
but it would be a very specific. Like it wouldn't. I don't want to see the same thing with a new villain. I would like to see almost like a prequel to this one, and just have it focus on the girls. Like I would watch 2 hours of their backstory and them becoming friends and them becoming Coven and like whatever, and have it be the craft like pink sparkly edition, not scary, like whatever. I think it would be fun to see that, but I don't. If they tried to do this again the same way, I feel like I would not watch it.
Part of
How
the
would
reason
you
they
know
were
unless you watched it?
What?
How would you know unless you watched it?
Well, I probably would watch it, but I would be upset about it if it was the same. How do you know? You didn't watch it. You watched
I
only 30
watched-
minutes of it.
I watched maybe half. I don't know, but then I watched Scooby Doo, and to be fair, it was what the heck's going on, and so HEX, what the heck's going on, and I chose it because at least it sounded kind of witchy.
Hey, I love Scooby Doo.
I love Scooby Doo too. See, we have that. We have that. We always have
We
that.
do. We
Well, we
always have
need
that in Paris.
something at this point with Richard-Lael.
All
We
right.
need,
Well,
we need the witch that came from the sea.
have we discussed everything there is to discuss? We again want to comment. Go, Courtney.
I just real quick, I loved Light as a Feather, Stiff as a Board because I used to play that at sleepovers,
Yes.
and I loved the Ouija board.
Yes.
I love that the Ouija board is what told them what was going on. I just love that part.
They also have the little box. They also have the magic boxes, which are really popular right now. The little box they keep their little magic stuff in. So that was very current too, as far as magic in certain populations.
Oh.
So that was kind of cute that they did that.
And
they
real
all-
quick, oh sorry,
ahead. No, go
I
ahead.
was just kidding. I didn't do quotes. I have two.
Oh yeah, quotes.
So I was talking earlier about when Richard-Lael said the thing about nobody knows why they didn't like them in school. Well, they say it because one of my favorite quotes is "We are the weirdos, mister." Like, because he says you girls shouldn't be out in the woods by yourselves. There's a lot of weirdos out here. They say we are the weirdos, mister.
Stolen from the first film.
Stolen from the first film.
Fine, still love it. Good
Yes.
call. And then Now It's You Who's Gonna Burn was pretty exciting to hear, but that was it. There wasn't a lot. I also was listening and driving and not writing things down. So
See, teenagers. I mean, I didn't mind. I mean, I would have liked more character development and things like that, but I did not mind that it wasn't there because I don't know. There wasn't a lot of character development in my high school. There was this group and there was that group, and I wasn't so deep. I wasn't as I was discovering things, so I that didn't bother me.
I feel like there wasn't a lot of character development in my high school. It should be the t-shirt this week.
The quote for the show.
And I just was going to say, you guys, we thank you for your input. We love everybody here. Tabitha, Sean, Mary Jane, Matthew, Robert, everybody who's checking in. But now we have something to do before we do our check-ins. And I guess that is what we're going to do is we're going to vote. Wands up, wands down on the craft legacy. I have to pull my wands up.
Not even a wand there. That's light as a feather.
Light as a feather,
I
There's a
love that.
board.
and that's where it stays.
Mine is
That's
stiff
where I
as a
vote.
board.
Mine is now on the floor. My feather is on the floor.
For all of its problems, I still give it a big wands up.
I like
So
it.
we have
I
up,
do too.
The message of this movie is so positive with the witches, and
Yeah.
that's what I treasure about this movie. And it was one of the 3 good things that I sort of enjoyed during 2020.
That's a good point.
Okay, so we've got one is low in the underworld for the old witch prophet, down by the description, one's neutral up, one's up, one's up. up, and the Coven went up, 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 so far down it's non-existent.
Wow.
Yeah, oh, I love it, Alyssa. High school is what makes character development happen, right? And I skipped most of my classes. All right. All right. I still want to do some check-ins with everybody, but before we do that, what are we watching next weekend? Oh, Halloween Town. We are getting into the season. We are getting into fall. We are almost to October. So next week, everybody, your homework, all of our friends watching, is Mary Jane. Nope. One's Midway. This is very mixed. So next week, Halloween Town.
Also, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we also have our anniversary special coming up on October 11th.
We do.
We have been going 1 year. We have been going 1 year.
I can't believe it's been a year.
I know.
And we haven't
just
killed each other yet. And we haven't killed each other. That's because we all live far away.
Yeah,
it's getting closer every week, though. It's getting much closer.
Jason turned his light off this week, so I feel like that was like we were close there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, next week Halloween Town and our 1 year anniversary. What do you give for a 1 year anniversary? Goats, I think. I think you give goats.
Well, isn't that the paper anniversary?
I think it is.
You can paper me. You can send me lots and lots of paper. I would be very happy with lots of paper with little dead people on them. You know, I would be very happy with that.
There you go. And of course, before we get all check in, you guys, to dress for the Witches Movie Coven, you need our merch. Witches Movie Coven merch is at mysterycontrol.com. You could get 2 goat unisex cloaks and capes. You could be the only one on your block so far to have a Richard-Lael pillow and some dragon power. I love that you keep those together, Courtney. Do you have them in your living room when people come over or anything like that?
No, so it's literally, this is where I either spend time on my couch or in here, and this is where I have it in here with all my things to show.
So you can get t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, cups, underwear, pillows, cloaks, blankets, and more at mysterycontrol.com. And I know we do have I think it's still my name is for 25% off. We are practically giving it to you. Code Patti, Patti, and you can get 25% off all this beautiful merch. I mean, really, practically giving it to you.
My whole wardrobe.
Yes. And you can get our quotes. You can get also, there's all sorts of, and you can of course get Scared and Alone, because hopefully we're going to be having a Scared and Alone come along soon. And for those of you who don't know what Scared and Alone is, it's just picture Courtney all by herself in a very dark, scary place. And the rest of us going, yeah, don't turn around.
Or turn around, touch that thing. No, thank you. And me like,
it's a dream of mine to lead Courtney into scary situations on the show.
Well,
that's what it is.
Again, we'll have to have the Witches Movie Coven night at Scared and Alone.
I love that.
That would be great.
Yes.
Let's do it.
All right. So I have a couple
Scared
minutes.
Alone says yes.
Yes. And hug the doll. Alicia says hug the doll.
Stop telling me to hug the doll. This is Rosie. I'll hug her.
She's got a whole collection now, as we see.
Shh, I have 3.
Collection.
You have a collection. You have a doll collection.
You have a doll collection.
I have a Halloween decoration collection, and I have 3 real dolls.
Yeah.
And not a doll who is a doll.
Yep. And a whole family of not a dolls who are Halloween decorations.
Who are dolls.
You're gonna have more than Heather and myself soon, Courtney. That's
I know.
Yeah. All right. So, all right, let's check in and see what we have going on. I'm going to do this clockwise again, just like in the movie. Richard-Lael.
Hello, I'm Richard-Lael. I'll be in Youngstown, Ohio, the 26th of October through the 29th of October. And then I'll be in New Orleans, and you can find me anywhere Gentleman Psychics are sold. So thegentlemanpsychic.com, not Twitter. Now that doesn't even exist anymore. I don't even have that anymore. But on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, everywhere, Gentleman Psychics are sold.
Thank you. Miss Courtney.
That's me. I will be trapped in Salem for the next month and a half. But if you would like to come see me, I will be there on weekends selling tickets outside of Remember Salem for the Salem Night Tour. So I usually am there on Saturdays and Sundays, and you can come by and say hi, and tell me that you watch us on Witches Movie Coven, and I'll be so happy and excited and try not to cry because there's too many people around.
And she'll give you a 50% discount on your ticket.
I will not. I
Oh.
actually won't, but maybe I would. Maybe Jason would. So you can ask him.
I have to say, you guys, before we move on to Jason, that I just did an event at Baraboo, Wisconsin, and I can't tell you how many people love the Witches Movie Coven. I mean, I can't tell you a whole lot of people. They like, we love your Witches Movie Coven. We love this. So we're getting popular, you guys.
I love that.
In the middle of nowhere in Baraboo, Wisconsin, at a haunted place, kind of a more of a paranormal thing, but it made me so happy. It made me so happy. So we sent them to Mystery Control for merch and panties. Oh, all right, Jason.
I'll be outside of Memphis, Tennessee, October 12th through the 15th at the Gathering of Souls Conference, which is a witch conference. And then I will be at the When We Were Young Festival as an attendee on October 22nd, rocking out to Green Day and Blink-182, which makes my wife sad, but makes me very, very, very happy. All those small things are important. And then I will be in Las Vegas again on November 11th for their Pagan Pride Day. So very excited about those upcoming events.
I love Blink-182.
I'll buy you a shirt while I'm there, Courtney.
Yes, thank you.
You're gonna need a bigger apartment just for your shirts, Courtney.
Yep, this whole room is my mystery control room and big lots for all my dolls. I mean, my Halloween decorations.
You dolls. See, you
Dolls,
just admitted
you said
it.
it, dolls.
You just admitted
I was
it.
looking at this one, which is a doll. Shh.
She's a
Everyone
doll.
knows that.
They're all dolls, Courtney. We are all dolls. Halloween dolls, decoration dolls, they're dolls. All right, Heather.
Hi. I decided to bring one of my dolls to just say hello to Courtney's dolls.
Oh.
She's lovely, isn't she?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, see, Courtney?
Mm.
She's the one on my desk right now. Anyway, I am Heather Greene, as I said, and I am going to be in Atlanta, where I am all the time working with my authors, editing books, writing articles. I'm not going to be anywhere doing anything at this point other than some online stuff, which usually happens in October. So when those things get formally scheduled, if they're good for you guys to join me, I would love that, and I will let you know. But right now I'm just in the works of scheduling some stuff. And I will be in Florida next week, but that's a vacation, and I have nothing planned other than celebrating the wonderful equinox on the beach. So that is how I have been celebrating the equinox for the last 6 or 7 years. So I'm doing it again, and I'm hoping the flies stay away this year, because last year we had a fly problem, but this year, yeah, not a good fly problem. It was a bad fly problem. So, but that's where I will be next week. And other than that, please come and visit me on my socials. You can find them all on my website, heathergreene.net. And you can find me on all of those. I have not been very active on socials lately. I've been kind of neglecting it due to a lot of personal and business and authors and reading and all that good stuff. So, but do find me there, reach out, love it. And I too, Patti, just got a message from somebody who watches here and said how much they love it and said it's a wonderful show. So I have been hearing the same thing. So this is awesome, guys.
Yeah, it is super awesome. So thank you for that. My name is Patti Negri, pattinegri.com. This weekend, if you are anywhere near Albuquerque, New Mexico, I'm going to be at a beautiful place called the Resonant Essentials. It's kind of like a supportive of magical places. It's not a brick and mortar, but you can go in and use it. So I'm teaching different workshops and seances, resonant images. So come join me there. Next week, I'm going to be in Massachusetts at Mass Paracon. My friend Sam Beltrusis, all sorts of cool people are going. So come on down to Massachusetts. And then the weekend after that is Orange County Paracon, which is now virtual. So everybody can go to that. I just went and recorded my workshops and stuff, so you don't have to get on a plane or a car or a bus. ocparacon.com. The next weekend is my birthday. So if you're anywhere near LA, Friday, October 13th, I'm actually going to be at Babylon. There's going to be a special LA ball for the Vampires Ball celebrating my birthday. It's not just for me, but it happens to be on my birthday. Been doing seances
It's for you.
So fun. Yeah.
Yay!
The super haunted Hill House with Natalie and my Paraflix crew. We're doing an all-girl paranormal group. We're going Go Girls. Because there's not very many all-girl. I think there's 2 all-girl paranormal groups doing that. And then, of course, to New Orleans, where we'll be missing Richard-Lael, because you are the talk of the town, that all the vampires are going to New Orleans and you're leaving, Richard-Lael. It's the chat of the town. And then I'm going to go to mid-Michigan. So tis the season. So the best way to see it is, thank you, Sean, is pattinegri.com. You can get to my real social medias because I think I have 20 fake TikToks. And for my people on TikTok right now, where I'm holding a little phone, it's going to be legitimate next week. I'm working with my team on that. And that's it. You guys like us and follow us, because for some weird reason, we don't know why, that makes a big difference in life. And come back next week. Tell us what movies you want to see, and make sure you watch Halloween Town in between now and then. Scared and Alone, Witches Movie Coven, Mystery Control, all of us, and we love you. We haven't killed each other yet.
We're getting closer every week. Closer and closer.
All right. We are at 7:00, so we have one more thing to do. What do we do? Which is 1, 2, 3.
Yeah!